Good afternoon, everyone. It's Tim and Chris on the buzz, back again after a couple of weeks now. This month has been really crazy. There's been a lot of lockdowns. The infection rates are spreading. I hope everyone's been safe. And just to come back to the show, Thursdays is the talk we have with Chris. Get your money mind on and just come get the best of the R that Chris comes and puts in, because getting that advice from a financial advisor, you generally have to pay for this, right? So Chris is here from CS Jones, talking to us today about estate planning and how you need to approach this topic, what you could benefit from it, and how you need to talk to your friends or your family about it, how you need to plan for the future. Hi, Chris. It's great to have you on the show again after a while. How you've been?
Been back, right? Summer's over, I guess, here in England anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah, back to work.
yeah. Good, good. It's good to have you back. Talking about estate planning. What have you got for our segments today?
Well, let's first cover, what is it? I mean, what is estate planning? Why do we do it? And then how to assess it yourself without a financial planner. It can be quite complicated, but there are certain things you can do yourself. And then when you get stuck, you can go for help. And then, of course, we can end the show on possible solutions. We'll do really simple ones, and if we've got time, we can go into the more complex
All right, all
solutions.
right.
Yeah, I think that should be quite helpful.
So shall we start off then? I think we're good to go. I'm also keen to listen to what you had to say, as always.
Cool. Yeah, look, straight into it, right? Estate planning,
How
something
would
that
you
doesn't
break
get.
it down? How would you, want, let's say, if I approach CS Jones and come ask you, okay, I need to organize my estate planning. I need to get it, put it all together and understand what I've got maybe from what I've maybe inherited, or how I can, sell some or do better with my investments, the assets rather. How would you approach the situation? How should someone talking to you approach the situation or look at it?
Look, normal people don't ask me about estate planning. The people who do ask me about estate planning have large sums of money, and we're talking, 10 million pounds and up. However, estate planning is useful for everyone, and people don't talk about it because I think they don't want to talk about it because it's talking about what happens when you die, which is never a great situation. If you're under 45, you kind of don't think about it. If you're over 45, you don't want to think about it. It's kind of a bit of an issue there. However, you should be discussing it because estate planning here in the UK revolves around inheritance tax, which is quite a heavy tax. It's 40% of your assets above £325,000. So what they're saying is, and this gets into what it is if your whole estate, which is all your assets, less all your liabilities, if we go back to those earlier accountancy equations, whatever your net balance is, if it goes above £325,000, anything above that is going to be taxed, and it's going to be taxed at 40%, which is a massive amount, right? People say,
Yeah,
"Well, I don't have that much. My estate's not that valuable." Well, most people's properties here in England take them into an estate dutiable event. When they die, the house gets sold, and suddenly their beneficiaries are paying this money out. So they don't get what they want. And remember this as well, just as a quick interlude. If there is estate duty or inheritance tax owed on the estate doesn't get paid out until that tax is paid. So it could be if there are non-liquid assets in the estate, like a lot of people have, which the main asset would be a property. Uh, they have to pay the tax separately in order to get their property released to them so that they could sell it or transfer it or whatever they need to do. So it can become quite a tricky situation for your beneficiaries. And it just takes a little bit of planning. Now, let's be very clear on this. Inheritance tax is a voluntary tax, meaning if you owe it, you have to pay it. However, HMRC and the UK government have made it very clear that if you do a little bit of planning ahead of time, you can mitigate this tax quite legally and, within the system. And so, because it helps the government. If you plan correctly to pass on your assets to other generations, those generations will benefit. Hopefully not relying on the government as much. So
what did you say? What did you say the tax was on inheritance, Chris?
So inheritance tax, it's a 40% tax, flat rate, on anything above £325,000.
That's quite a bit. I mean, that's almost half of it, right?
Well, so you get £325,000 for free to pass on. There's no tax on that. Anything above that is 40%. It is quite a bit. Now, everyone gets the £325,000. So what you can do with a husband and wife, for instance, is you can combine it. So on the first death, you can have £650,000. However, then on the second death, there's no tax-free portion, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Also, if you your main beneficiary is your spouse in a civil marriage or in a normal marriage, then there's no inheritance tax on anything that can get passed for free. However, if it's to your children, there's inheritance tax, and of course, to anyone there's inheritance tax. So you need to make sure that the planning on this, and the appropriate time to claim for this is when you do your will. So you sit down and you do your will and you say, okay, how is my wishes for when I die going to affect the sums I'm going to pass to people in a tax way? Because if we can do it tax efficiently, i.e. they get more money from you, that's better. And also, mainly what we do around planning is to make it easier, to lessen the burden on your beneficiaries. Because most people say, well, I don't care how much they get. Yes, we'll pay the tax, that's fine. And I said, well, hang on, you're going to make it difficult for them as well. And then they kind of think, well, maybe we should make it difficult to do a few planning. But,
so if you were to approach this situation or where you're investing or you're inheriting, land worth over, let's say, £900,000, what would you, how would you approach the situation, or how would you prefer to have, given it on if you were the one passing it on?
Well, look, I mean, if you're the beneficiary, you generally don't have a choice just to cover that off, and you will receive the funds after the tax is paid, because that's done through what we call probate and the solicitors do it. It depends, exactly right. It depends on what assets you're passing. I think we'll go into a few of those because it can get quite complicated. If you've got just empty land and things like that, there's certain reliefs that can be taken into account. If you've got company shares or you own your own company and you want that passed on, then things like trusts may work. There's also what we term business relief, which is if someone sold the business and then they've got this money, as long as we've done the planning for it, that can get passed on without estate duty as well. Now, estate duty also affects people who don't live in the UK, but have assets in the UK. And I'm not talking about shares or unit trusts. I'm talking about someone who has a house in London, as an example. That could fall into the UK inheritance tax trap. We use this technical term, it's called situs assets. Basically what that means is that the tax office looks at where the assets are situated, the site of where they are. So if I, as an example, I move back to South Africa, and I'm living in South Africa, and I'm no longer domiciled or connected to the UK now, any other way other than I've got a property here. When I die, that property becomes or falls into the net of the inheritance tax. So there's also ways we can mitigate that as well for people who live outside the country, and it's important to, because they don't need to pay the UK government 40% on the assets in the UK.
Yeah, I mean,
And
that's
some
pretty
people don't
much,
realize
that's almost half of what you're inheriting, right? I mean,
yeah.
what more do you need to pay off? I mean, you do pay taxes through other ways as well. I mean, it's not even a question at this point. How can you avoid taxes? So, yeah, but yeah, I think we can head into a quick couple of videos and be right back to hear what Chris has to say about how you can, mitigate these taxes, or these come across and deal with these situations. Stay tuned right
Look at
here.
how to assess it, yeah.
Exactly. Stay tuned right here. You're tuned in on The Buzz with Chris and Tim. It's Thursday, so we have Chris on for the next half an hour to 45 minutes. But yeah, stay tuned right here. This show is brought to you by SEMA. Good afternoon.
Again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, you've had one to forget, God, there'd be an inquest. Me, why did you reject my son? Well, I haven't rejected your son.
I want to talk about, how the generation gap, has how much it's changed, especially when you check the youth nowadays in comparison, to people back in the day.
I'd say when I was younger, it was more disciplined. Not now.
In comparison to now.
Not at all. Not now. The way things are nowadays, the younger generation, you seem that they can't accept the word no, if that makes sense.
They can't accept rejection.